This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
It's the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast.
We're old school, right? We wash our own dirty laundry.
The name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back.
I refuse to be judged by a grown man wearing a hockey jersey.
Game on!
Game on!
We are back with another episode of the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast, episode 126, Sunday edition. We had to push the dates off just a little bit to welcome our guest, Hunter Layne. Welcome, Hunter.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being available. And, of course, anytime we have guests on, if we normally record on Thursday nights at 8 Central, if there's different times we have to do, we definitely make it work. So I know there's football and stuff on that people are following, but this is hockey, so we don't care about that right now. Wade and Paul, of course, joining me as well. Hope you had a good week, gentlemen. The drink of this Sunday is a little Weller 10-year for my old fashioned. Always a good get. Usually not too hard to find, but always a good piece in your glass. So cheers to everybody.
Cheers.
These sponsors, as always, we want to thank Mitch from your Drink Your Face Off line of barware and clothing. He has all your stuff for Valentine's Day, for any of the upcoming holidays you want to spend money on, or just because it's cold where you are at right now. Also go see Mitch, and we'll get to the dates near the end of the show, the upcoming expo out there in San Jose. Mitch does have some of our stickers for Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast out there, so go out, see him, and ask for those stickers. He will give those to you, and we do appreciate Mitch for doing that. And a public display of collection. Reach out to them. They can get you whatever kind of signs or nameplates or things you want. I continue to see really cool designs coming out of them. I've had some people reach out showing me what they bought. So it is awesome that we've got people turned on to them. Auctions. NHL Auctions has a few. The Sabres jersey for the upcoming anniversary is out there. Those close in just a bit. That's the, of course, now I can't find it. It's the, what the heck is it even called, Paul? I was trying to remember, and now I lost my train of thought.
For the Sabres, I can't recall.
They've got it's the anniversary. The alternate jersey. It's reunion night. That's what it was. I was thinking of the anniversary. It's reunion night game. We're in the alternate style. Going to benefit Buffalo Sabres Foundation. Those started on the 15th. They go till the 25th. It's the goat head style. I know that game should be pretty cool with some of the guys that came through there. Also, you've got the Winter Classic ones. Like I said, those are going for just a few more days. And those are sharp jerseys. I really do like them. They close on the 19th. So actually close tomorrow night. Pricing on some does not seem too bad. We'll talk about those Thursday once they close. And then also the Jets have some warm-up jerseys that are available as well for one of their anniversaries. Some of my links got broken, excuse me. But they're doing it's anniversary warm-up. They're also out on NHL Auctions. Of course, now I have it. That is their commemorative jerseys for the third warm-up. Niederreiter's won. It's four. Sorry. All kind of confused. Throwing me off the day. There was worn Sunday. Pre-game warm-ups worn on December 13th, 2025 when they took on the Jets. It is the Niederreiter commemorative jersey, and each one is worn by a different member of the team. It's a sharp-looking jersey, but those actually close tonight, so you may hear it before. If not, sorry you missed it. It's first time. They weren't listed under a normal the AHL or the NHL auctions page. I had to actually just search for game used and they popped up. So hopefully people didn't miss those because the search wasn't very good.
I
But
should, since you're bringing that up, I probably should mention the Red Wings had the Fedorov retirement night
yes.
the other day, and they all wore Fedorov jerseys and Fedorov skates in the warm-ups and stuff before
Well, not
Paul
skates
Boyer.
though. Did you see what they actually did with that?
They taped them up. Did they
Yeah,
all?
it was vinyl stickers, and it's I don't know if it's the company that I see advertised online with playing hockey, but you can send any logo they'll do on the vinyl skate. But skating with Cider, excuse me, sent me pictures. He had gotten one of the kits and sent me pictures of that with because originally I thought he got the full skates. He had attached it to one of the other pair of skates he had, but that was a sharp and a different way to sell the kits.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really neat idea that they peeled those off and then you could get them as part of the setup.
You know what's shocking to me? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it took Paul Boyer and the staff a lot longer than they ever imagined to apply them to all the skates.
I can imagine. Jeez.
The one thing I took from that, and God, like you think back to like Fedorov and Gretzky and some of those other skate styles that were like really popular, some of these like really flared out, like awesome looking skates, a lot of the Nike skates from back in the day. As much as our game is changing and the throwback jerseys and the all the colorful kind of stuff that's coming to the game, I'm shocked that style that hasn't started to make its way back into just everyday hockey, because man, they look fantastic, and I can't imagine this generation of players doesn't think those things are great, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but I think they look awesome.
No,
So-
you're actually right, and it's happening to a point, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't remember what model it is, but there's a model of CCM skates that is back out this year, and it's
white.
It's the vintage style of had like the kind of the white stripe through the middle of it, and that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how many players are doing it, but CCM did put out because the public could buy them too. But it's that throwback look.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for some of these flashy players to start bringing those back into the NHL on a regular basis. Because man, like a little bit of flair there, I think would be a lot of fun to see. Kind of rounding out the game now.
Well, and they had to do those as sticker because Nike Bauer skates don't exist anymore.
No, for sure. Reebok had some pretty crazy skates for a little while too. I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd just be cool to see somebody come up with something neat and fresh to dance that up a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that was cool, something different. Because you see, of course, like the Red Wings are really good with those kits for games and stuff with the helmet, the gloves, the jerseys, and all that. But I thought that was a really cool piece. And I appreciate Skating with Cider sending me those pictures and give me some of the background on that. So
more details on that though. The Hockey Town Authentics has been selling the warm-up jerseys, and in the team store there at Little Caesars, last I heard there were 2 jerseys left as of this recording. So there are, if you're interested in getting one, you can reach out to the store, or
what were those going?
I think the ones 2 lower end players, I think they were like 1,800 in that ballpark, 2K. And I think everything else sold. So I do not know what someone like Cider or Larkin would have gone for. But
now, was that online auction or how did they do that? I don't remember seeing anything pop up on it, but
I believe it was a straight sale.
Okay.
So I don't know if they released them only at the next game or how they were sold, but they're like I said, there's 2 of them available at the store right now. Red Wings play in 2 hours, and this will not be posted by then. So
right. We'll ramble for that long, either on or off the air. So yeah, that will be tough. But no, check that out. If you're interested, reach out to the Wing store and find out. We have a is seeking message, and I apologize who sent me the link initially saying, hey, make sure you mention this on the show. But Andrea DeSecco posted this in the NHL Game Worn Hockey Jerseys group the beginning of January. It says, I desperately is seeking. I know this is a long shot, but I'm hoping the internet can do its thing. A friend of mine played 1 game in the NHL for the Washington Capitals on April 13, 2014. That night was a shirt off their back night, and he wasn't able to take home his game jersey as it was unfortunately auctioned off. No, he'd love to have it. It was circulating for sale a few years ago, and hoping somebody has it or knows where I can find it. It was authenticated, and the tag has a K00 023. Any leads would be amazing. It's a long shot. Have thank you advance. The player is Peter LeBlanc, and it's number 64. So the only game he played on, they said people were spreading it to the caps groups, other things people were checking around on it. But if anybody knows where the whereabouts of that is, you can reach out to us. We can link you to do this. Or Andrew DeSicco is in the NHL Game Worn Hockey Jerseys group. And it said, hey, go join these other groups thrown in there too to get this spread around. So so all of those things are in there, but that's a cool piece, and that's a tougher one because since it went off jersey off the back, it went out the door quickly. So I did want to mention that. Paul, you've got one, or actually, yes. Yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll hit the Blues vintage pricing.
Oh, okay, cool. So a Celebrini auction closed, the one at VSA. We've talked about it a few times. And Doc, do you have a graphic for it?
It is right there. Let me get it to fit in the window properly.
So I want to thank Mr. Mitch for putting the graphic together. I had sent him some images and stuff, and the next morning when I wake up, this was in my inbox. So first, and also thanks to Logan Lynch, he went ahead and was able to get more info on this jersey. We know it was a one-period jersey from the last game last season. We thought it was period 3, and we were wrong in that. Logan has photo matched this to period 2. It did go through the Sharks Pro Shop. Why it didn't end up in their database is anyone's guess.
Yeah, that does seem like a problem.
Yeah, it does. It's possible the person who does it was out on vacation when this happened. The history of this jersey is it was not at the equipment sale. And it was supposed to go to auction. At least that's what some people were told at the equipment sale. And it ended up going in a batch of 3 Celebrinis that were sold to Cole. And when he bought that and some other Sharks equipment and stuff, Cole ultimately sold it to someone else who has consigned it to VSA. And the shocking thing is it went for $26,000 after Hammer. It was a one-period jersey worn for 6 shifts under 6 minutes total. That boils down to $75 per second it was on the ice.
I wish I made that kind of money at my job.
Yeah, well, I wish some of the NHL players made that type of money too.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that turns into for a standard contract, but $75 per second is absolutely insane for any type of salary or a jersey. Not bashing the buyer or anything, but it sounds that way. So it's going to be interesting. The Sharks have not released a Celebrini yet this year. We're still waiting on set 1. And when those come out, we'll give you another price report. I don't know if they're going to auction them or sell them at the upcoming game next Friday against the Rangers, because that's their last game before the Olympic break at home. Or if they're, if they're going to wait till after the Olympic break, we will find out. So
now, where does this fall, Paul, into where some of the other Celebrini sold in this last year?
I have to check my notes, but I think most of the auctions were 10 to 15K.
That's kind of what I thought too. I was trying to remember because I know we've discussed them, but I forgot to look back ahead of time. But I thought this was on the higher end of that.
Oh, it was much higher. Now, I don't know if it's because not many have come out on the market. In all fairness, the Sharks auctions are not well publicized. We do discuss, when the Celebrinis are on auction, we do discuss on the show, but we're not reaching the audience. No, we're not reaching, thousands and thousands of collectors, especially ones, all the ones who would be spending this type of money. So this is like the first one I know that came out to the general public in a well-publicized auction, for lack of a better term. So it's, who knows what one might have done at Classic or something. So it's, and I can't recall what McDavid's go for now, but this, is definitely in that ballpark. I mean, Hunter, I'm curious what you think about this sort of pricing on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely surprised by it too. I mean, Ricky McDavid's are going for a decent chunk more than that. If I'm not mistaken, his first is either his first game and first point jersey sold at Sotheby's earlier this year. If I'm not mistaken, for like $300,000. Somewhere in that ballpark. It was at Sotheby's not too terribly long ago. I guess not earlier this year because it's January, so late last year. Um, yeah, I mean, I like Paul said, the other auctions that the Sharks had done, because I get their emails and I look at them. I've never bid on any of them. I thought they were ending in that 10 to 15 range as well, and definitely surprised by a 26 figure on this one. And
Yeah, I think we all were.
There's actually a couple too that other in this auction that were kind of surprising to me. The 2016-17 OV, that jersey sold for 17 and some change with the buyer's premium. That exact same jersey sold at Classic February of last year for about $20,000 after the buyer's premium. So not even a year later, reconsigned at a different auction. And I would imagine it was the same person. Looks like it sold at a loss of $2,500. And yeah, it just sold at Classic not even a year ago.
Wow. Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, I was surprised, at the VSA auction. That's some of the pricing on it. I mean, there's a lot of there aren't too many game worn jerseys on there, but yeah, I mean, this was the big shock to me, the Celebrini.
Yeah.
As we were chatting, I did the math. Assuming you play 20 minutes a game in the NHL and you don't get injured, and you're making 75 cents per second on the ice, that translates to $7.4 million. I mean, if you're making $75 per second on the ice. So that's a $7.4 million contract.
And multiple NHL players have those.
Oh, yes. Many more do not.
Yes, that is true.
Yes. I do want to mention real quick, for the Red Wings, I just heard back from the store. The Soderblom kit is the only one still available, and that is $1,500. So that's in the shop right now.
I know it's the jersey and the skate sticker. Is there anything else included with that?
I do not know yet.
I wasn't sure what that kit was. I knew it was the jersey and the other, but I that skate sticker was the piece that caught my attention, so I didn't really pay attention what the rest of the kit was, or if it was just those two things.
Yeah, if we don't know by the end of the show, we'll cover it on Thursday. Just a real brief section. So, yes.
And just wanted to touch really quick on the Blues Hall of Fame auction closed on Friday night. All the days run together for me this week anyway. They brought out, every time they do a Hall of Fame induction, they always bring out vintage jerseys. They brought out a 93-94 set 2 Hall. And Wade, I know you looked at it kind of close and maybe been at the game to see it. I couldn't see anywhere from any of the pictures. And the Blues have been doing very well with posting good wear pictures and stuff. Seemed pretty clean to me, but it sold at $26.25.
Yeah, that's like an issued price for a Hall. If that thing was hammered or showed a bunch of wear, especially with the C on it, you expect that to be considerably higher for Halls. So I think a lot of people were kind of onto it. I'm not even sure if they I'd have to look back at the description, but I think they may have actually listed that as issued. So I know when I saw it.
Yes, they did. It said jerseys tagged the second set 93-94. Jersey shows little to no wear. Like the set stamp is perfectly clean. The handwritten marker number that we expect to see in those is there, but all of that, could you just get rubbing from gear? All of that is super clean.
Yeah, and that was a year that he was wearing a ton of shirts. So, not surprised of what that went for as an issued. I don't think prices were extraordinary by any means. I don't think that there was, the McInnes and Pronger were kind of on par for what you'd expect those to go for.
Yeah, they had a white McInnes set 1, 99-2000 went for $3,033. Set 3 home 99 2000 Pronger was 32.24, and then they had a Steen and a Jackman in there.
I'd venture to say those were on the low end for what we've seen those players being offered for recently.
Yeah, for sure. And those both showed some decent marks through them and things like that. Yeah, Jackman's at 3.
Yeah.
910 was 750, and a Steen, who's now going to be the GM, taking over very soon. He's the assistant right now. 0809 set 3 for 525, which I thought would actually, with him coming up with the team more now working, I thought would actually be higher.
Yeah, you can't really give Steen jerseys away. He wore so many. He was here for so damn long.
Yeah.
And, there's a ton of them out there. As far as Jackman goes, he's kind of a guy that I think he's far enough in the distance right now that a lot of people don't pay attention to his stuff. And again, he's another guy who was here for a long time, so there's a lot of them out there. Again, I think the McInnes and the Pronger were on the low end of what most people value them at. So those were good buys for whoever got them. Congratulations. It was a fun auction as always.
That for sure. And I think the prices were down somewhat on the actual Blues Hall of Fame ones because everybody emptied their pockets the week before with the very first release of the white jerseys. So
2 auctions 2 weeks in a row. The only jerseys that kind of didn't surprise me, I kind of expected them to go a little higher, to be honest with you, was the Snuggerud and the Dvorsky sold in the 2000-ish range, a touch over. They both scored in those, and they're, with what the last 2 went for, I expected those to actually get a little bit more heat. But overall, the Hall of Fame jerseys were kind of where they were. The one thing that I think helped that auction stay down was they had a bunch of issued ones in there. A bunch of the star players didn't actually play. The guys, the bigger names beyond that, the Holloway, the Thomas, Bennington was bench Warren. So I think that, that kind of there was a good number of them, and those having an auction a week after a big auction, it's. You drain some pocketbooks. It's hard for a lot of people to dig in for a second round the next week.
Yeah, and the first release of the home new style ones too, even though they're just a 1-game jersey with the Hall of Fame patch on the shoulder. So we'll have to watch whenever the home regular sets come out where those land. All right, we've rambled on other things enough, and we now let Hunter have his go. So. Any of us whoever wants to start with questions, feel free. We all kind of redid that, so we all have access to them. And I guess I'll start with the first one. How'd you get started in collecting, Hunter?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, we didn't have ice near us. The closest rink that was by where I was living was a little bit over an hour away, so nobody played hockey where I lived. It was just too far away for anybody to even imagine playing. I was in architecture in high school one day, and a friend of mine looked at me and said, "Hey, you gotta pick a favorite team." And I said, "Okay, I'll pick the Devils because they have a cool logo." And he was a Caps fan, so I couldn't pick them. Right now, in the long run, that's between the two of them, that's really all I cheer for. That would have been like my junior year of high school, freshman year of college. I was at Liberty. They've got a really decent club team they have for a long time. And watching a little bit more NHL and watching them one day, I thought to myself, it'd be kind of cool to own a jersey they're wearing. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? And then from there, it spiraled into eBay searches and Facebook groups and just spun out of that way. Yeah.
So, and I don't even know how old you are. How long have you actually been collecting?
So I'm 31. I started collecting probably when I was 21. I want to say somewhere in there, 20, 21, somewhere in that range, roughly. So about 10 years, give or take.
Very cool.
Did you start out with a particular focus, or was it just the teams around you?
Kind of stuff what I could afford, Like I had some cheaper NHL, some AHL stuff that was just cheap, things that, in college, buying $100 jersey wouldn't, be impossible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Liberty would do in-game auctions sometimes that I would win, the players, and it's not like college hockey that I'd imagine at like Michigan or something. If they're auctioning those things, people are probably forking over crazy cash for. I mean, they were literally selling jerseys you could win an auction for like $50. You know what I mean? So
I mean,
That would
still,
be
it's
nice.
a way to get a
yeah,
jersey.
yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, just cheaper things, pretty
Do
much.
you have the question I always like to ask in this case? Do you have any of your first stuff, or is that stuff all long gone? And is there any of that you wish you had back if you did move it?
Yeah, so there's some of the Liberty stuff is at I do have some of it still. And then some of it's at my parents' house as well. Um, like the NHL stuff, no, that's all pretty much long gone. The first NHL jersey, I thought it would be cool to get back. The problem is I can't remember what the player's name was. I do remember it was like a Kings preseason like 2000 patch jersey.
Yeah.
Um, that's about all I remember though, and it was
So if
white.
you see it somewhere, are you gonna you're gonna
If
download
yeah,
it?
if it comes back up and it like clicks in my head, I'll buy it back. Kind of a deal. Yeah.
I have a couple that I wish I wouldn't have gotten rid of. Some of my early stuff going back to the late '90s, early 2000s. Um, but I always kind of kid around. I'm keeping them close to the vest because if I ever see them, I don't want somebody to see my excitement in trying to reacquire it. So
I hear that.
So, do you have a true focus, or is it kind of a or as you went along, you found a focus?
Uh, yeah. If you followed some of the stuff I've posted, like searching for on Facebook, for a while, there have been a couple hunts that I tried to take really seriously. That
Devil's
just
captains.
Yeah, like the Devil's captains. The reality is like there's at absolute most like four Bruce Driver captains jerseys, and some people believe that there's only really two. Bruce himself won't tell anybody what he has, even like one of his best friends who's also doing the Devil's captain collections. He won't even tell Mike what he does or doesn't have. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Mike Spellman, that's the last jersey he's looking for is Bruce Driver's captaincy jersey. Um, yeah, I mean that, there have been that. There have been some that I've done, kind of in not necessarily in secrecy, but in quiet, you know what I mean, that I haven't really broadcast out there. Um, I still have some of the Devil stuff that is important to me, I guess. And I also have a small collection of like PHL, like the Polish Hockey League jerseys, that I've accumulated over the years to like, when a team will make the Champions Hockey League, that's pretty much the only way you can kind of get them. Or just knowing somebody over there who can go to a rink and pick something up.
Cool.
Now, what made you go get some of those?
Yeah, so my wife is Polish. We've been a whole bunch, that kind of thing. I know a lot of people don't like, when it comes to NHL stuff, the ads being new, they're not a huge, people typically don't like them. When you look at a Euro jersey, you kind of expect it, you know what I mean? So I think some of like the vibrancy of them, you know what I mean? They're kind of loud, like there's just so much going on that they kind of like stand out. Um, and they're cool because they're different. You know what I mean? It's not like there's so many NHL things out there and we see it all the time that sometimes it's kind of nice to just have something, it's not a huge monetary investment. The last one I bought was like 150 bucks, you know what I mean? So it's just something different to kind of keep and appreciate.
Well, and some of the NHL guys that end up over there, and you see their jerseys pop up. I've looked at that shop before and seen some of the lower end players or players I recognize that have ended up over there. It's not an expensive way to get those, and they are sharp looking.
Yeah. A lot of them are, especially for like some of the bigger European teams. Um, if they make, if they've been in the NHL and they go over there to, play out the end of their career, or they just want to be back home, and that team makes the CHL the following year or whatever, there'll be some pretty good deals. You'll sell them all through the website. The problem is that the last 2 or 3 years that I've tried to buy it, the website always crashes because they can't build the website to handle the amount of people that are going to be there when they drop the jerseys. It'll be crashed for like 9 hours. And then the benefit for us is if you want to buy them in the States when all the Europeans are asleep, then the website's working again, but there's barely anything left. Yeah.
That's great.
So as you I guess what's your total number as you've gone through the years? Do you really keep track of that, or do you fluctuate quite a bit?
As in like what's in my collection at any time?
Yeah, personal collection.
It kind of fluctuates. Some of the stuff, like the PHL jerseys, I think I've got like 10, give or take. And that's just something like when they come up, I'll buy them. It's not like, I've made occasional Facebook searches for them or whatever. And the last time I did one, I got, somebody from Canada reach out to me and said, "Hey, I've got one." And I was like, cool. Like it's somebody I've never heard of, obviously. You want $150? You got it. It sounds good to me, kind of a deal. Um, you know, and some of the devil stuff that I've got, actually I have some of it here. I'll put it beside me. It's like I have Bryce Salvador's
Yeah,
2013
former Blue.
This is his white set 2. This is from the first game I ever went to, when they played the Caps, back when it was Cap One Arena, or no, the Verizon Center, whatever. I can't remember anymore. Um, I really want to get the OV to pair with it. It sold at some auction and nobody knows where it's at anymore. So if it ever comes up, I'll try to get the OV to pair with it. Um, other than the cup run that ended in not being a cup run in 2012 when I started watching, the only time that it was decent to be a Devils fan was 2017-18. Other than that, it's been like pure despair. Um, and during that year, we had Taylor Hall, right? So I have Taylor Hall's white set 1 from his Hart Trophy year. This one's, oh, you can't see it; it's being blocked out. My bad.
You're
This
good.
one is a pretty cool one that I got. This one popped up at My Gray. I want to say like middle of the year last year. Um, Popped up for a pretty decent price. They put up some other ones too from his time there, and that was an instant scoop. Burt Woods told me about it going up. I went to the site and immediately bought it because I had the red set one that I had to get rid of for some other stuff to be taken care of. So when this one popped up, I was like, that's an immediate buy. And then also Brian Boyle's red set 1 from his Masterton Trophy year from 17-18. That was a pretty amazing year. That he wore that, if I'm not mistaken, he wore that on the night for Hockey Fights Cancer, and then he scores a hat trick in that jersey as well. Which, I mean, we're talking about Brian Boyle. I think like there might be a season with 3 goals total for him. So that whole story of all of that was such an amazing, such a memorable experience, and seeing like the league and all these players put up, their signs for, who do you fight for? I fight for Brian Boyle. I fight for Boiler, and all these signs. Like I think Stamkos did one. A bunch of other players did it, which was really cool. So that's one of them. And then some other pieces that those have kind of been in. The Salvador's been here for a while. The Hall's only been here for a little bit, but I had the red set 1 for a little while. The Boyle left for a minute. I sold that to another collector. And then I reached out to him and said, "Hey, I kind of want this back. Can I have it back, please?" And at the time he was like, "There's never been a more expensive Brian Boyle jersey than this one." And I said, "You're probably right, and just I'll give you what you paid back for it." Um, Another one. This one's a recent one that I just picked up. Gordie Howe's. I believe this was '86. When he was the honorary captain for the All-Star game.
That's
That one
very cool.
That one's pretty cool. In my opinion, and I've fought this battle with a lot of people. Gordie Howe's the greatest hockey player of all time. So owning anything by Gordie is an amazing thing. That one, I've talked with um, forgetting their name. Give me a second. I gotta look this up before I get it wrong. Um, with NHL auctions, but who do they partner with to do that? Frozen Pond, yeah. I've talked with Frozen Pond about, the family stuff because they've been auctioning all things for the Howe family and the Howe Foundation for them to raise money. So that one was a pretty cool one that I just picked up. And another even the probably definitely the most recent one and one that I hadn't really made publicly known that I was looking for was a Hunter blue Caps jersey.
Nice.
This one's pretty sick. So this is his first blue. So this is when they bring out the blues in 95, 96. This is the first blue Eagle captain jersey worn by Hunter. And in comparison, and talking with other Caps guys, in comparison to most of his stuff, this one is absolutely thrashed. It's got like 30 to 40 repairs.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, they're definitely not cheap. I've had other, I had white ones offered to me, but I had just been waiting for a very long time to just get a blue one. Like the white ones are cool, but they're worn for, I don't know. I know Bert or somebody's going to chime in and correct me if I say the wrong amount of years, but I'm just going to assume that they wore them for 10 years. I know somebody will message me on Facebook and tell me I'm wrong. But let's just say they wore them for 10 years versus the blues, they wore for a minute. So waiting for a blue one was a pretty long process.
So it seems like you look for some particular players or different things like that, and it is then on top of that, as you're trying to find ones with some decent wear over less, or is it some cases you want that specific jersey for a specific reason?
Yeah, sometimes it's just that specific jersey for that reason. There's sometimes a lot of people put a lot of importance on wear for a jersey. Depending on what it is, it doesn't always matter that much to me. Sometimes you don't necessarily get a choice. Some players when they come up, you're not really going to get another shot to get them. I mean, I think of like Yager jerseys. If one comes up, you're not really going to get another shot anytime soon to get another one. And if you do get the chance to get a better one, just sell the other one. Just sell
Can't
it
be
or
picky.
trade it.
Can't be picky with certain players.
Right. Sometimes you can't be picky, and if you want to be picky, you can just wait forever and just watch the price continuously increase. Sometimes when you wait out and you continue to wait, more people are also waiting, and the price of that jersey is just now continuously increasing. And honestly, in my opinion, Yager is probably the perfect example of that. For the longest time, Yager Penguins, people were thinking were like 10,000, $15,000 jerseys, and the one at Classic sold last year, it was either 25 or late 24, somewhere in that time frame for almost $30,000. I mean, Yager jerseys are, especially his pins, are worth an extreme amount of cash, privately and publicly, when they're being sold.
Very cool. I guess I'm going to jump in.
Feel free.
I think it's cool to hear about your collection because, again, I think, congratulations on the drop of, Into the Boards. I know you had a really successful first drop a couple weeks ago, and I know yesterday's went well as well from our conversations. So I thought it was cool to see your collection and hear about what you collect because I think a lot of people at this point really just think of you as a dealer and as selling stuff, right? So I think it's neat to see that tie into what you collect and how that changes and transitions. Um, how do you think your collecting habits have changed since you've kind of publicly went into being a dealer?
Yeah, I mean, there's there's definitely still a lot of stuff that I buy out of passion, not out of the ability to make money on it. There will be some jerseys that I buy that as I'm going through the deal, I'm thinking to myself, if I get my money out of this, I'll be lucky. But it's just something that I want, you know what I mean? And it's something that,
Well,
you
that's
know,
the collector side of it. You
yeah,
know, like a lot of times when you buy something as a collector, it's hard to say like you can't go. I'm going to be able to get what I put into this directly back. I think that's one of the crazy parts about being a crazy collector, right?
I think though the benefit of selling so many things has helped me to limit, like to know, I guess maybe not limit, but to know in my head what is reasonable and what is unreasonable. Sometimes it's fine to invest over of what something may be worth to a certain point. Like if there's a shirt that comes up and you're like, hey, I really want this. And the ask is, 10, 15, maybe even 20% over what is a comfortable figure of what you think, this is a fair purchase price. Sometimes it's fine, but if something comes up and it's, double of what a fair value at any given point would be, knowing, having that knowledge is also one way to save getting burnt on stuff too. And I've definitely seen in talking with a lot of people, some people take advantage of newer collectors in that realm of them wanting something and not knowing, the full resources that are out there to research stuff, other, sellers that are out there, groups that are out there to purchase things, and I guess long story in that is selling so much has given me that knowledge of, what is a fair value for certain things. But like I said before, I still buy plenty of stuff that's a passion buy that is not always I'm going to be able to turn this into a cash cow.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's
I did want to ask. There's a lot of people in the hobby who start selling a lot,
Mhm.
and they're you can call them dealers or not. I don't really care what label we put on them. You actually 2, 3 years ago, I think it's been now, came out and said you were going to try this as a real dealer.
Yeah.
What was your motivation to move into that from? Because we've known you as a collector, seems like forever. Even though I guess it's only been 10 years, but
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
yeah, yes, it is.
Absolutely.
It does.
I think through the whole process, there's been a lot of risk that has been taken in doing it, and I still do take a lot of big risks in buying and selling stuff. Uh, I think in the end of 23, when I started my LLC, I was getting to the point of thinking, I was starting to tell myself, hey, I could be comfortable. Sorry, it was the end of 24. I could be comfortable in doing this. Um, I think I can do this. You know what I mean? It's like I'm feeling pretty comfortable. Let's do this. Um, I guess, going through all of that, no, again, I was right the first time it was the end of 23. Going through that, having the conversation with my wife, I think everybody knows me well enough that before 24, I was already selling a decent amount of things, but nothing into the realm of what I do now, especially 24 and 25, that I was comfortable enough in saying, hey, if you'll support me in taking this jump, I'm going to leave my full-time job. I'm going to work a small part-time job, but really invest a lot of time and effort into doing this as a full-time gig. And I think before 23, I had already been kind of dealing with people enough that I had already started learning a lot about not necessarily just the hobby, but also um, jerseys, identifying identifiable patterns that self-authentication on things. I was getting more comfortable with being able of, buying something and saying, okay, yeah, this looks good. And kind of just developing that confidence is probably not the best word, but that confidence of knowing like, hey, what I'm getting into, what I'm buying, what I'm spending money on, this is a good kind of realm to go down.
So I have a follow-up question to that. Do you think that making that transition and publicly saying, "Hey, listen, I have an LLC. This is my business." Do you think that when it comes to authenticity, that changed your obligation to the stuff that you're selling at this point at all?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think that whether you are a dealer in name,
Yeah.
a dealer in what you actually do, but you just won't admit it.
Which is what we talked
Um,
about before the show. Yeah.
right. You just won't admit it. Um, or you are a collector who just very rarely sells something.
Yeah.
We all have that responsibility. Because there are definitely people who own things that they believe are good, but and have no knowledge that what they own is not good.
Sure.
And some of them are, then you can split that down that some of them don't want to admit it, like
Yeah.
they refuse to believe that what they have is not good. But if you're ever caught in a position of selling something that through other, third party research or that purchaser's research turns out to be, not good, whatever realm you want to, whatever silo or category, however you want to define, you want to put yourself in, some of that responsibility still falls back on you.
Sure.
I think the owning up to it might be a little different. I think some collectors might and I've heard of this happening. I've seen this happen not only with collectors but also with other dealers in name or just in what
Practice.
they should be in name of not owning up to that, and
Yeah,
backing
I guess
down.
that falls back into that, like, hey, is Into the Boards like 100% guaranteeing their stuff, and is it a limited? Is there a window on it, right? And I think that becomes the question that a lot of collectors have had with dealers, and probably some of the situations that we're kind of like alluding to without getting into the specifics on. Like, at what point does, as a business owner, does your responsibility to the item come, and then are you doing like, I mean, me and you have done business, so I know the answer to this, but I'm going to say it because it's on the show. Are you putting like your own LOA with all the stuff you sell at this point? Are you keeping a database of everything that comes through? These are just questions, that I think a lot of people would ask.
So I haven't started doing like all like paper authentication for stuff, you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
mean, everything that I've ever bought and sold is something that I would, if I didn't feel comfortable buying it or if I didn't feel comfortable selling it, I wouldn't do it. There have been jerseys that I have purchased from people that upon receiving have turned out to be bad
yeah,
for various reasons. And if the other party doesn't want to return it, or if it's just something that it's kind of like, hey, I bought 30, 40 shirts from this person. I don't want a nickel and dime of a 40 jersey deal. I'll write in the fight strap of a jersey, not game worn. You know
sure.
what I
Which is
mean?
which is fair.
Um, and then sell it as an authentic with that knowledge, like, hey, this is an authentic that somebody wore, but not this person. Kind of a deal. Um, I haven't started doing my own paper LOAs yet. I have probably had at least a dozen people tell me I should start doing them,
Okay.
and charging for it to authenticate for people, or at least do a photo matching thing. It's, on my site for doing a photo matching thing. I haven't really done it yet. There's a lot of encouragement from people in the hobby for me to do it. I just haven't I haven't really jumped into doing it. A lot of stuff that when I do sell it, if I've matched it, I provide people with matches anyways,
Yeah.
as something that I'm selling selling out on my own, I guess, if that makes sense. Um,
I guess now with the LLC, I guess, and do you keep a like a spreadsheet or a log sheet of what's coming through the
yeah.
doors of Into the Boards?
Yeah, of course. I do it all not just for, inventory and taxes, but also to just know everything that's come through. And, I keep photos of literally everything. I have like 40,000 pictures on my phone and I would say, um, much to everyone in my family's dismay, that probably 39,000 of them are jerseys and the other 1,000 might be family.
I think that's a fair balance.
I think so too. Especially in
I'm
seeing
about
what I do, it's a fair balance. But yeah,
I'm probably
I don't delete photos
60/40.
of anything. All of the jerseys I've sold. I would say probably going back to even before COVID. They've all been backed up in iCloud and that kind of a deal. And I keep all that stuff saved in there.
I'm probably 60/40 dogs and jerseys. So I mean, like, don't feel bad. Um, Paul, you have one? Anything?
Um, yeah, no, we. I guess I'll say a little bit about it first, and it's not. It's more of a commentary than a question. When you first made this transition, a lot of us all waited anxiously for your drops on Facebook. I know you'd advertise like a certain day, and I just remember, just constantly checking the group to see, okay, what is Hunter going to drop, and just like, did he, forget that there's a Wolverine out there and didn't tell me about early. But it's,
It
that.
happens.
Oh, it does, and yes, and if they end up here, great. If not, great. But that was always fun. I thought the days, in the group when you did your drops like that, there was a lot of activity and stuff. And now it's a little bit different, but I like the transition to the website. I I
It
don't know.
has to
I
be
think it's
easier. It has to be easier for you, Hunter, rather than getting 800 Facebook messages when you make a drop.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. Paul is probably the number one person who encouraged me to go to the website because of Facebook and just how it works. When like when I was doing those big drops, I'd list, 40 jerseys at a time in a drop on Facebook or whatever. Sometimes those posts would be delayed because Facebook is just doing its thing. You know what I mean? It's not always up to speed. It's not always, it's checking because you put, like, so Mike Hogan, he has ice violence. I noticed one of the reasons why my posts would get delayed is if I put ice violence tag, Facebook would delay it because of violence. So I had to shorten it to IV. If you put like teams with birds. So like if you put penguins, that was a flagged word for me, so I had to shorten it to pens. So if you miss things like that, sometimes your post will get delayed, even if the group could be it's just Facebook doing Facebook stuff. For not my most recent drop that I did yesterday on the 17th, but like the one that I did 2 weeks ago, I guess on the 4th or whatever, the 3rd. Um, that one was great because, hey, I know I'm going to put these jerseys up at prices that are already amazing, and then I'm going to literally lose money on almost every one of them by offering up this discount code, and no one's going to message me about anything. They're just going to buy it on the website, and I'm not going to have to sweat, like you said, the 40, 50, 600 messages that are going to come through of people and, people being upset that they weren't the first person even though I messaged you 1 second after the drop, how did this other person get it? And people being worried about that. It's like now it's up to the website. Now you can be mad at Shopify. Don't be mad at me.
it's a good platform, Shopify. I have good things to say about it. You made a good choice on where
It's
you're at, and the site looks great.
It's really easy. That's my favorite part. It's like all of this other stuff. I give a lot of people credit for updating other websites, like Mike Hogan's with Ice Violence or John's with Double Deek, and like those are great, but I can't manage that stuff. And I don't want to pay somebody to manage it for me. I just want to be able to do it all. I can manage it all from my phone. If somebody wants to buy something from me, but they want to make an offer on something, um, and I'm and I accept their offer and they pay me through PayPal or whatever, I can reduce the inventory on my phone from Shopify and take it down to zero. So now nobody else could buy it. And then I have to, like explain to the other purchaser, their purchaser, like, hey, I'm sorry, this was actually sold out or whatever. I can just
Yeah.
update it from my phone and take it down, which is really nice.
Yeah, no, it's a great platform. It's I'm somewhat familiar with it underneath the hood, and it's rock solid. And like I said, it's easy to use from the seller's point of view.
Yeah.
So moving forward, are you planning on doing drops like you did the other day with a large number of jerseys, or are we going to start seeing jerseys sneaking in there, every couple days without big announcements? And we'll
No,
keep
I
pinging the
think
site for that.
no, I think my plan is to continue to do larger drops, like upload them on my own and set them to like a draft setting, and then do like a hey, the website's being updated Friday at 5 o'clock. I kind of want to. It's kind of tough because like I want to do it at a time that works for the largest majority. So like that's why Saturdays at 1 o'clock are great because for pretty much everybody, Saturday at 1 o'clock people are awake, but if I do it at like Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, people in California, which is where a lot of buyers are at, are still at work. People in Europe are asleep. So as much as I would like to do it like at a set, Friday this time, it kind of works better for doing like a Saturday midday thing. My plan is probably continue to do, set, hey, check out Saturday X date, 1 p.m. Eastern. This is when the site will be updated next. I'm not gonna do another one of those big sales that I did 2 weeks ago because that was kind of painful for the wallet, but I knew like let's launch the site, let's get people excited, let's have a good time. It was a lot of fun, seeing all that stuff sell really
Yeah.
fast. And I know a lot of people who wanted that stuff. A lot of people who got it. Some of them got them to resell. Again, I don't care if that's what you want to do. It doesn't bother me. It's your property at this point. It is what it is. And a lot of people got stuff that they, wanted for their collection too. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was an incredible sale that you did, the opening one. And I was really happy to see how quickly things went. So, Wade,
So
I
I
know you
guess
have a question. Yeah.
no, I just want to. I guess I have continuing questions. So obviously at this point, everyone knows what you're doing. Do you find that acquiring inventory is coming to you, where like not trying to be like you're not having to go chase down fresh inventory. People are reaching out to you with collections or with items they want to move. Is that something that's at this point, it's got to be pretty helpful? I mean, are you exchanging with other dealers inventory, or are you just trying to get fresh stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I would say now that people know me well enough, there's definitely a lot of people who just reach out and say, hey, I want to sell all this stuff. Here's a price. So I'm not necessarily hunting it down. A lot of times, some of the prices they're looking for, like, full retail pricing, so it just doesn't work out. Sometimes
Yeah.
people want to sell off stuff and they're like, hey, I'm trying to get out, I want to sell a few things here or there. Sometimes things like that come up that work out. Um, I'm still pretty aggressive about hunting stuff, trying to find things. I feel like you got to stay on top of it to be successful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There are plenty of times that I will be very idle. Like we travel a lot. My wife's family lives in Europe, and I'll do my best to, take off that time, to be away, still somewhat keeping an eye on stuff, but to be away and to not be aggressively searching for things or hunting down stuff. And sometimes, yeah, there are dealers that do do trades, buy and sell stuff from dealers. I'd say that happens a decent amount too. John Double Deek and I have done a bunch of large deals. Hogan and I have done a decent amount of deals too. Occasionally I mean, there was a time, I think 24, I bought like 40 or 50 jerseys at once from My Gray,
Yeah.
all with the intent to resell them too,
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Just
mean,
jerseys that you thought you could get at the right price, that you would have a profit margin to have them make sense
yeah,
across the 50.
yeah.
Okay.
I'd say it's a good mixed bag of stuff.
It's just interesting, because you always do have fresh and nice stuff, right? So it's not like you're dropping, um, subpar jerseys, right? It's not like you're having um, stuff that aren't names that people are interested in. So I mean, you're obviously, acquiring inventory that is movable. Not you're not setting up a museum on into the boards.
Yeah, one of the things I really enjoy doing is hunting and researching stuff.
Sure.
So finding things that I know people are going to want. Um, I mean, if you like when if you went back and looked at um, that one post I did announcing my website coming up, when I listed like the 150-ish like Hall of Fame only jerseys that I had last year, uh, almost none of them were posted to Facebook. I had probably 40 people asking me if some of those specific jerseys were still available. Most of the stuff I get in that kind of realm and category never really get posted. There are things that come in and I'm reaching out to people one on one and selling that way. Like the one that was probably the most popular was the Hashik blue and gold sabers. Everybody and their mother was messaging me about trying to get that jersey.
It was already long gone.
It was already long gone. It had been gone for like 7 months. Yeah, I mean, hunting stuff down, talking with people, asking those questions. I think as I've grown in the hobby and I've got to know a lot of people, whether it's from traveling to shows or just, annoying people on Facebook, finding where things are hidden at, talking with people and starting to build that knowledge in the back of my head, like, hey, this is where this jersey's at. Hey, this is where this jersey is at. Not only does it help me, like to go back and find that, but it also at times helps other people. Like I don't know if it's a I don't know if Wade, you're okay with me talking about it or not, but I helped you sell a jersey not long ago.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, you made it really painless, and
Really, really easy. And it's one of those things like if I know about that and I have somebody who's coming to me looking for something, and I'm like, hey, I'm only going to tell you about this if you're really serious because I don't like giving this information out because people have entrusted me with this. I don't want to, only if you're serious about this, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
people have entrusted me with what they have in their collection. They've told me about it. A lot of people, lead with that, please don't share this with other people. So you have to
yeah,
go ask them if it's okay, if I can connect two parties to help make them a really good sale. And the one that,
yeah. For me,
I
it
helped
was I
Wade
liked
sell
keeping
was
I
a
like
great
yeah
deal.
I like keeping it private. Like you reached out to me and asked me, and I like now I don't even really want to mention the jersey or anything because it was a
Right.
private interaction. But you reached out to me and asked me if I had certain things, and rarely am I interested in moving it, but you made it very appealing and very easy. So, people that say I never sell anything, Hunter can attest the fact that I do occasionally sell items.
Some people
Um,
do, especially when figures
yeah,
like
when the price is right, I mean, for
that.
sure, and when the opportunity is right, and that's a situation where there's a lot of people that would reach out, and I think a lot of people would know that I would pretty much instantly shut them down, but that has to do with probably with our relationship over the years and a trust level with you as much as anything else, right? And I think that's always part of this whole thing is you've established yourself without having there's not a lot like you haven't gotten yourself in a situation with one of those trick bags with a lot of questions or something that didn't go well that you didn't address properly. So I think that does set a stage for you that's a pretty high bar versus a lot of other stuff that goes on. So good for you. Kudos.
Thanks, man. I think part of that, like you're saying, that the price is right is one of the difficult things for me, like as trying to collect stuff, is like sometimes you look at something and you're like, man, that's a lot of money to have tied up
Yeah.
in this. You know what I mean? And you get people will reach out to me about things, like I'll show off that I don't necessarily want to sell. And they'll
Yeah.
be like, well, I know Hunter, he's gonna sell it. Let me pester him about it until the point that he does. Um,
Sure. And
I
I mean,
think
like,
the collecting part for me though is what makes that difficult is sometimes having that money tied up and being like, can I really justify keeping this?
yeah, especially when
Um,
it's your business.
Yeah, it's my business, and also I think some of it too is just like Wade, you and I we've talked about is like the way you were raised. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes it's hard to justify keeping money tied up in that. I know Mitch, when he was on here, his dad told him something. I was literally listening to it before we jumped on this podcast. You can't feed your family with cardboard.
No.
Same thing. It's like as cool as it is to keep all this stuff, sometimes, people come along with that offer that it's like, y'all,
No.
there's no way I can turn this down. You know what I mean?
I,
It's not a shirt I want to sell, but
no,
hey,
for sure. And I think that's one of the more interesting things about our hobby, and I think and gotten some hot water for it, but I think ultimately everybody's goal is always to acquire stuff at the best price possible. I think that's no one wants to pay more for anything, and people, you know, I think that that's famously one of the reasons you're able to move things and other people have sites that have stuff sitting is because you're pricing things typically to a price point where it's not it's movable, right? And I also think that from our interactions, you're very fair to deal with, and I'm sure Doc and Paul have interacted with you in the same way, and they'll like you're always open to listening and working out deals, and I think that's it's pretty awesome.
yeah, I think just being able to have those. I mean, there are people that'll offer you half of what your asking price is, and it's kind of like, I'm not going to take that. I appreciate you
Yeah,
reaching out and us having the conversation. And there's plenty of buyers out there who've bought a lot of stuff from me that still do that, and I'm like, hey man, I appreciate it, but I can't, I just can't do that.
do you think do you think there's a difference in the way that you value things as a dealer as far as when you buy things or trade for things? Like, have you found that your percentage of return or what your expectations are have to be different in your entity as it is now versus previously? Like, are you looking at a bottom line different than you were previously when you make a purchase or a trade?
I mean, maybe to some extent. But like I said before, sometimes I buy things that as I'm wrapping up the deal, I'm thinking to myself, if I get my money out of this, I'll be lucky. But I mean, sometimes, yeah, sometimes when I'm buying something that isn't either for something that I want to appreciate and just enjoy for a little while, or if it's something that if I initially have the plan that I want to sell, I don't go in with like a baseline of, hey, I want to you know, make a 33 or 133% profit or however you do
Yeah,
percentages. I don't know. I don't want to make a
you're not that guy.
33% profit on it. I don't want to double my money on it or anything like that. I don't go in with that immediate thought of what's a
That's
set
what
number that I have to make.
that's what's happened in the baseball card world. You see if you follow any of that stuff, you'll see these kids running around baseball card shows with their cases, and they're walking up to tables and they're talking about comps and all that kind of stuff, because there's that mentality, that 30% mentality. That you have to buy it under 30 to the percentage game, right? I don't think that's intruded our hobby as much as it has maybe other parts of the collectible worlds, Pokemon, baseball cards, autographs, different things like that. So I think we're pretty fortunate that it hasn't as much. Although there's a lot of collectors that feel like everything is going up in price, and it is getting more and more expensive. But I mean that is the case. I mean it's inevitable. I think.
I mean, it definitely is. At the end of the day, it definitely is. I mean, even when I look at, I mean, I talk with people about this stuff all the time. You look at like Ovi, for example, you go back to like right after the Cup win. At that point in time, if I'm not mistaken, he's still like 300 goals from the record. At the end of 2018, I think he was like 297 away or something from the record. People are still thinking he's not going to break the record. You're buying Ovechkins from MyGray at retail at $7,500 and stuff at that point. You're still getting Ovies then. Now, like you're looking at one period jerseys up at 15, 17 and a half grand.
Yeah.
Um, it is. I mean, a lot of stuff is, especially for that upper echelon player, is just constantly increasing and it's constantly going up. I think the entry point for some things, is probably roughly still the same. You know, if you're looking at retail pricing only, it's roughly been the same for, 5-ish years. It hasn't really increased too drastically for that entry level. But if we're looking at like current, generational talent like McDavid or Ovi, Pasta, stuff like that, if you're looking at that kind of way up their level, um, that kind of money has just increased, and I was talking with another collector about this yesterday about like Dreisaitl, his prices, I mean, even like in 22, you were buying his stuff around, 2.5 grand. You could even get lucky and get one around 1,500, between that and 2.5 grand was a decent going price, and now I think the team is selling them for like 10,000 Canadian. So what is that now? It's like $8,000 American or something. You're looking at that level just constantly go up and up and up. Um, and I think that's the influx of outside money too. I think there's a lot of buyers that are outside of the Facebook hobby that are buying things as investment points and really sinking a lot of money into it to sit on and look as an investment instead of look as a collection piece. Because sports memorabilia as a whole is constantly growing, and people are sinking a lot of money into it as a diversified investment or something like that, instead of it being just a collection only item.
Yeah, I think people have the access to know about the in the know has changed substantially. I know in other collectible aspects of our hobby, they talk about the COVID influx of a lot of people that weren't collectors that suddenly became collectors and I think it's all facets of collecting. And I don't think jerseys were immune to it. I think suddenly people became a lot more knowledgeable that this stuff was out there, and then it's not that hard in this day and age to hit a Google search and find game worn jerseys and figure out where stuff is and how to get it and what have you. So, um, you know, kind of is what it is, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think it's also beneficial as the hobby continues to grow, right?
Yeah.
I think it's what it it's kind of at the end of the day, it may
I
it may take away from some people's opportunity to get something, but as a
sure.
general whole, it starts to increase the collections of especially people who've been collecting for a long time. You look
Yeah.
at some of these collectors who are sitting on jerseys that they bought, 10, 15 years ago for a literal fraction of what they're worth now, like a 1/20th of what the shirt is worth now, that they're sitting on like retirement plans almost in fabric.
Getting into it now is going to be hard to do that
Yeah.
unless it just continues to grow. But yeah, if you were an old school collector years ago and got into stuff early, you're definitely sitting on a gold mine. That's for sure. And if you collected the right people and the right
Yeah.
shirts and the right condition and the right whatever, so you know, it's been a this has been a fun conversation.
Yep.
So moving, forward, with the hobby and stuff. You've been in this now a couple of years, actively selling as a dealer. What do you find which is easy for you to sell, and what sits? What are the trends on like what's hot? Whether it's a high price or just people are willing to buy and stuff that no matter how much you discount, you can't get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I think this is kind of different between different sellers too. Like Hogan and I have this kind of difference of like Hogan is much better at selling more vintage things, like 80s, 70s, that kind of era. Hogan is a lot better at selling, but 90s and 2000s is definitely more of my hot ticket item. And I think that kind of stems from also who you know, where those people are at. If we look at who's using Facebook versus who's using, just a general website or just a phone call kind of a deal, is how that stuff moves. Um, you know, I I think that for me, if we're talking like more expensive stuff that sells a lot, is definitely like those 90s superstars. Like when we talk about things like Brett Hall, you name it, any of those people in the 90s who are absolutely tearing it up. That kind of player is who is the hot ticket for me. That's the stuff that really moves. Um, Stuff that kind of sits is kind of the bottom line, the fourth line player today, especially like the late Adidas era. Is kind of some of the stuff, and then also some of that like late 2000s, later, kind of like the middle of the road, like Edge 2.0 kind of thing of just that fourth line player kind of a deal that you got to sell for like 150, $200 to get it gone kind of thing.
You got to have the right styles, I think, in a lot of those cases. I think and some of that stuff, it really comes down to having not even on the lower end of it, it's not the right player, even, it's just having the right jersey itself, right?
And also sometimes it's about to be able to sell some of those things either at a decent price is having to put in the research. I had a comment request from Mitch for me to talk about researching stuff. That's one of my favorite things to do in the hobby too, is like spend a lot of time researching things before you sell it.
Yeah.
Like I have a spreadsheet right now. I don't have it pulled up, but I have a spreadsheet full of every single jersey Ovechkin wore. And I haven't owned all of them, obviously. The majority of them I'll never own, but a lot of them I've already researched, having this knowledge, having things to back up the sale of other jerseys.
Yeah.
Like for example, if you looked on my site yesterday when I had a consignment OV that I put up at like 18 grand, that style of jersey, if you go back and you look at all of the other ones that he wore in that style, even though that one was only worn for one game, he registered 4 points in it, which is more than almost every other one that he wore in that style. Sometimes when it comes to selling stuff, especially when you're looking at um, important events. So if it's related to OV, obviously it's goals. If you're looking at enforcers, did they fight in it? Having that research already done, put in to be able to present it to whoever your buyer is a potential buyer is, or if you just put it on a site, you just put it on Facebook, whatever, um, it can be exceptionally important to make things sell because people want that. They want that. Um, what makes this special versus just a general jersey. Um, yeah, and I think doing that not only has helped me learn more about certain players, what they're wearing, how they're wearing things, specific customizations of stuff, um, but also, price points on stuff too. What can you sell something at because the player, fought in it? What can you sell because the player recorded, X milestone in it? Stuff like that. Milestone research, especially for those like all-time greats, when you're looking at Yager, you're looking at Ovi, who they're passing, things like that, when they're doing it, what kind of team milestone, player milestone, all-time milestones can be attached to it. People want that history too, you know?
Yeah.
And I assume
And
for Ovi, you started with the
so go ahead, Paul.
population. You started with the population reports because
Yeah.
Migrate. I mean, they're great at providing that information, and
Yep.
we're fortunate he's played for a Migrate team the whole time. So.
Right. And if we go back to things like when they didn't play, when Migrate not necessarily didn't exist, but they didn't have those population reports, or if you're going into the 90s when those things didn't exist at all, um, doing that research of going through all of like different photo hosting websites, of matching things, of when jerseys were worn. Like one of the most recent ones was a Solani alternate. I think it was the home style of 97, 98. Um, Originally, it was matched to one game. Hey, that's super cool, but there's no way Solani only wore this for one game. What else can I find out about this jersey? So, in the time that I spent researching it, and it took me, like an hour. I think when you spend this is all dealer mindset though. Like this is like selling mindset, not necessarily collecting mindset, but it helps the collector know, what they're getting. So like the Solani's matched to one game at the time, it was matched to him just wearing the A on it. But I went back all the way to the preseason, had it matched when Korea was out, so Solani was wearing the C at that point. Matched it to having the C on it, the C placement of the jersey, all the way from the preseason until pretty much the All-Star break, including a hat trick game that it wasn't matched to before. That's before the Richard became a trophy, but it's still his his goal scoring league leading goal scoring year. As well. So having that hat trick attached to it's cool. One of the Yager jerseys that I sold not long ago was the same thing. Initially, it was matched to, I want to say, like 3 or 4 games. I spent a few hours and matched it to 4 or 5 other games, including a hat trick game and including one of his finger salute games in the salute kind of thing that people love to see. So having that time to put into it in the long run pays off, not only as a seller, but also, I mean, it's cool to know, right? Like it's cool to have that. It's cool to have that done that other people might not necessarily have the time to do or know how to do it.
And I will say, I've seen some of that just as the general sellers who post in Facebook, and that is they'll break down, here's this many goals, this thing, whatever. And you see those compared to ones of, here's X player jersey, $5.95. And
Right.
other than the year they wore it, I find, and you may the same on the dealer side, is I find when there's more info, and not just where, is details on what happened in the jersey or whatnot, those seem to sell much quicker than with a picture and price.
Yeah, and also if we look at wear as a selling point for stuff, I would say when you're looking at 90s and 2000s, obviously wear is going to be, for the most part, it's going to be more. But as players stop using black tape, um, a jersey can still be worn for, 20 games and pretty much be spotless. Like I had a Duncan Keith Oilers. I mean, is never really known for, beating anybody up or getting in the boards and tearing anything up too much. Um, but, a 15-ish game Duncan Keith almost looked like it came right off the shelf at the, whatever Edmonton calls her store. Kind of almost that level of cleanliness to it. So you have to do that research. You have to go back and research, hey, what happened in this jersey? What can you match it to? Sure, thread matching isn't always the greatest form of matching, but sometimes when you're doing multiple pinpoints through one, saying, hey, these are all of the games I've matched to, this is the research of what happened during those games. It's people want that extra level of authenticity also provided because you know teams and others, teams, mostly teams, when they sell things, they're not necessarily doing all of that research before they sell it. We've seen this with the Sharks. We've seen this with Tampa Bay. We've seen this with with a bunch of teams. They'll sell something, say it was worn during this time frame, and it'd be completely wrong, right? So, did the player wear it? Yes. Did they wear it when that set stamp said? No. So having that time to do that research to go through, and it can be beneficial to the jersey. It can also be a detriment to it as well. But the team's just going to say, "Hey, we just said it was worn. We saw this. We've seen this happen with we've seen this happen with other teams when they sell stuff." Um, so putting in that time, putting in that effort, can really make a big difference, especially when it comes to secondary market, that is.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of us when we get jerseys, of course, immediate go look at pictures and Getty or wherever and research it. You mentioned seeing jerseys, especially with teams going away or players going away from black tape, stuff like that. I just got one of the set one white Cam Fowler jersey, and I always go look, and the Blues are good at it. And you if you've listened to the show, you've heard it. Is they track every game it was worn to give you the sheet, the whole bit. 18 games, and all the wear points are super light. I mean, there's a couple very faint marks and stuff, and others in that same set are beat to hell. Some of it I know is just maybe how that player plays, but you're right, is even in the current modern stuff with a ton of games worn, it if I didn't look closely, you'd think it just came off.
Right.
The tags were just taken off of it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think, some people still want to find that heavily worn modern jersey. I think, with like the current Fanatics double reinforced arms definitely kind of reduces that because the jersey is a lot heavier duty than some of the Adidas shirts or like a Edge 1.0 kind of a thing. So the wear points can be harder having that stat sheet of when things were worn, like when the Penguins used to do that jersey track, that was like innovative, right? Like that was all new, pretty amazing stuff that the Penguins did. That more teams are doing now too, that they're providing with their objects when or their, items when they're selling them.
So, what do you feel overall? Again, now you're wearing two hats. What do you kind of think the state of the hobby currently is?
Yeah, this is another topic that I've talked with a lot of people about. Sorry, I keep going back to my notes because y'all sent me the
No, hey, you're good.
plan. Um, I think we're still seeing a large influx of money into all-time greats of top tier players. So I am still seeing either private sale, like as myself, what I'm hearing about from other people, um, what's happening in auctions. We're seeing a lot of that all-time great kind of still maintain where it's been at since a lot of the COVID increase, or can still continuing to increase. Some of the stuff that was kind of in that mid to bottom tier range of value or player caliber is either at the same point or declining. I think you right now, if you're investing and buying things that are if you're currently buying and just looking at it as a collection, it's something that you just want and you're not thinking about long term, um awesome. If you're looking at buying things for the long term, something that you want to invest money in and you want to make sure it's a smart purchase, it would be my suggestion to try to find that upper echelon of what you can afford, what is affordable in your, lifestyle, or that rarer player or rarer style, right? So I would like, for example, I believe that's a Chevy Chase jersey that you have on your wall, something like that, or a Tony Twist, stuff like that. When you're looking at the very rare stuff that is exceptionally hard to get, um, of a high caliber player, but not necessarily an all-time leader in like points, right? Like not everybody has to own a Gretzky jersey for it to be a investment level kind of piece.
And how do you see the future of the hobby?
I would imagine it's going to continue to grow. I don't see it slowing down. I don't think it's gonna. I don't. I mean, as long as the economy stays well, right? As long as people have money to spend, I see it continuing to grow. I think, um, the teams keep selling their stuff. I think that is probably not going to grow a lot more. I think you're going to kind of see where we're at now with like My Gray having their handful of teams that they have, and we're going to see a lot of teams continue just to sell their things the way that they do. Um, yeah, I mean, with the rumor of next season more styles being released, I think those will come out hot and people will spend a lot of money on stuff like that because people chase that style. They chase what's new. They chase what's cool in the moment.
Well, with that, I think we've covered an absolute ton of ground. Paul, you know what? Actually, Hunter, I'll give you your last thoughts first before we wrap this up.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate having the time to come on and chat, and thank you guys for moving it around. 8 p.m. Central's pretty much my bedtime, so it is. It's not even a joke. Um, yeah, I think it's been great. I'm really appreciative of all of the things that you guys have done for me and for the hobby. And I appreciate all of the people that I've had the opportunity to work with. There will be hopefully a lot more coming from myself and from the business on the front of what we're selling, what we're doing, shows we can make it out to, places we can go and see people. So yeah, I mean, I greatly appreciate the time and being here.
And just in case anybody didn't catch it, what is your exact web address?
So it's Intotheboards.shop. So maybe if I move, it'll come up and it won't blur me away. There we go. So we go Intotheboards.shop. Yes, thank you to whoever bought Intotheboards.com and then tried to sell it to me for $10,000. That's not happening.
Jeez.
Oh,
Wade, what you got?
No, fun show. I'm always interested, and I really appreciate you kind of answering a lot of questions about the dealer front. I think that's a little bit different than what we've done in the past with a lot of other guests. Obviously Hunter and I have done a lot of transactions over the years, and it's always been a lot of fun, and I thank you for that. It's been a fun show, and I've enjoyed doing it, and glad that we had the conversation. So thank you for coming on, and good luck with all the ventures with the business.
Thank you.
Paul.
So I have a few things, but first off, thank you, Hunter. This was great getting you on the show, and fascinating discussion and some great stuff there. For people who don't know, check out his website. There's some great jerseys on there. Hopefully, you listen to the show, you already know about it. Should also mention Hunter does do consignments. We didn't discuss that here, but if you have stuff you don't want to be selling your stuff, he's a great person to work with to help you move a few jerseys. So thank you, Hunter. Other things I need to mention real briefly. For the Red Wings, the Soderblom that was left has just sold during the show.
Oh, geez.
So there's none of the Red Wings Fedorov jerseys are left there. It was just the jersey and the skate. I don't know what you want to call that. The white things that
skate cover.
Skate covers. Yeah, that they used to make them the Fedorov ones. So sorry about that, but real-time show, and it's gone. Quick World Cup update. FIFA closed the ticket sales a week or so ago. We'll find out in February what people won. But what I find amazing, we were talking big numbers earlier, they had over 500 million orders for tickets.
Wow.
Half a billion orders. And, all those are going to be more than one ticket. So there's going to be really interesting to see how they break down into what games. And we'll talk about that when that finally happens and we get a good sense, or when the Athletic gives us a good sense of what has happened. And then finally, San Jose Expo, January 31st. We're filling out all the tables now. We're close to maxed out on space, if we are not already maxed out on space, because we've moved into the Tech CU concourse where the Barracuda play. If you haven't paid for your table or your tickets yet, please get that money in, because we don't want to have to turn anyone away. But we're less than 2 weeks away now. Looks like it's going to be a great crowd. 8 a.m. start. We'll have to be out of there by 2 because it's Cuda Mania, and I forget the wrestler's name, but Wade knows.
Rob Van Dam.
Thank you, Wade. So that's my 2-minute summary of what we missed. Yes.
With that, again, Hunter, thank you. It's the first time we've really talked at length. I know you know Paul and Wade very well, but I'm very glad you wanted to come on and share all these things, and you shared a lot of great stories and information, and wish you the best of luck with Into the Boards.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Please make sure you give us follow, shares, all of those things. We got a lot of big things coming up. I'm in the next week or two, we'll have my flight finally booked for Vegas. I already have my hotel room out there and doing all the measuring to pack all the podcast gear as a a carry-on to make sure I don't get dinged on any of that, because I sure as hell I'm not putting that in checked baggage, because I want that to make it safe. So if you're looking at going out those shows, make sure you get your rooms. I actually watched a couple travel videos on YouTube about the New York hotel. Holy crap, that place is massive. I'm excited. Just some of the restaurants and the bars and other things there are just there, and it's coming fast. And Paul, I hope your guys' expo next weekend goes off well. And again, get out to those things. If you're in areas you can't make it to, see about starting your own. Doesn't have to be big. If you want to be a guest, you have suggestions, thoughts, want us to cover something, please send those along to any of us, and we will definitely work them into the show. Thank you for being patient with us, not putting this out till Sunday evening. We want to make sure we get Hunter on. Our other next show will be on Thursday and released Friday morning as normal. We'll see you back next time.